Oh, hello, Henry.
Hey.
Hi.
Hello. Gaspard was just on, but he's restarting his computer. So we're just waiting for him. He had some stuff to show off, and Alexei has some stuff to show off, and I have some stuff to show off.
Okay.
I'll just let Gaspard start when he gets back. Or maybe, yeah. Let's wait for. Or maybe I can just start showing off the stuff. It should be pretty quick. Yeah, I'll just share my screen and let's see. Okay, so I'm playing. There we go. I'm just playing around with the new branch where we use this proxy stuff, and I almost have it working, but I want to refactor computed, but I can get into that. Let me just quickly show you how it looks. So, like, there's this one module for the to do MVC. Can you hear me okay, by the way? Because the TV is on in the background.
Here it's okay.
It's okay, good. Okay, so it's like a traditional module file. The only thing is that we have the state type here. And then when we kind of like type the signals, we just type them using type of signals. It's just a quick way to type them. And what's also new here is that we actually have a computed property. And I'll show you how that works. So inside types, I have typed the state, and I have typed the computed as their actual return values. And I'll show you why it works like that. But there's like nothing special here. It's just typing all the things. And then inside computed, yeah, we can see the first use of proxies. So traditionally, when you use proxies, you have Cerebral/proxy, which just works out of the box, kind of. But when you do want to do the typing, you create your own application file where you type the proxies. And we can look at that file shortly. But here I have a state, and I have a computed proxy, which basically are tags. That's what the plugin does. It converts proxies into traditional tags, which means that there's a computed tag now. So what I can do here is on a compute, I had to change the signature because like there are two signature changes, and it's on compute and it's on connect for React. And it's just to manage the typing. And the change is that you don't have like a last callback like you used to. It looks more like traditional signature, where you have the dependencies first, and then you have function you call with the actual callback. Basically, what we're doing here is we're pointing to the state, and we have the to-dos here. You can see it's typed. We have, and I can do like state dot. We have all the typings here. And then the actual values are received inside this function. So we get the to-dos and we get the filter. And then when I hover visible to-dos UIDs, we can see that it's a computed of string arrays. And then we have this count computed, which uses the state to-dos. And then we have computed, where we also have types. And then we receive that, like we get the correct type of the computed. So it doesn't like return a computed, it returns the actual value of the computed.
Can you scroll up just a second? So how does the computer know that now it has visible to-do IDs?
Yeah, so that is in the types here.
Okay, so it's declared in your okay.
Yeah. So that's how it knows that. And these types here, these are typings for this specific module.
Yes, okay.
So the idea is that you would define your computed the same way like you define actions and providers and stuff related to the module.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have this, for TypeScript, you would then have this wiring file, which is called cerebral.proxy here, where it brings in the tags and the context and the specific typings for the different modules. In this case, app, where you have the app state and you have the app computed stuff. And then you compose together all the types. Here it's just one module, so it's easy to compose it.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, this shouldn't be there. And then you have the providers. So that means you can now create the context of actions by inserting providers. And you also have by context. Shouldn't it be the... Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm just confusing with Fluent. So you get the providers here. And then you also have, like on this, can we see this when I context? Like you have typings for the state and the computed as well. It's like by default, it's inside the I context here. And then you build kind of like the typed API for your application. So you define, okay, you have a factory for a sequence with props. You export the state, the signal, and then you just say as state, as computed, as state. So that's how you get typed proxies. It's just that you export them again, but you define the type for it.
And for state, you use as state statement. And what about signal and props? Why we don't need it for signal?
Oh, yeah, you actually need it. I just haven't added it yet. Yes, so you would say like as signals.
And what about props?
Well, props is different in different contexts. So the thing is, like, for example, when you... Okay, let's take the two different scenarios for props. Well, just let me finish off the...
Yes. We are moving far away now.
So, for example, maybe we should look at the component first. Okay, so when you connect to components, it's the same thing as computed. You use the same proxies, like computed counts. You get the counts in there. It's typed. Like for footer, you do the same with state and signal. Maybe I should just say have state, filter, blah, blah, blah. Signal. Yeah, and this isn't typed yet. And then you, as you would expect. And then we actually have one here to do. So what you could do here, if you wanted to actually type, as you can see here, we haven't typed props here. We can still use it, of course, and it works, but it isn't typed. So if you wanted to type the props of a component, what you would do is, for example,
proxy it here,
props as external props, for example. And then you would have the typings for it.
And isn't the as notation something specific to GSX, or is it really
it's TypeScript?
Yeah.
I thought they used the brackets for overriding types. It's the same.
There is two ways, yes.
Okay, it's nicer like that.
Yeah. So it's basically we have we have this, like what we need is dot notation.
And Christian, the connect, it was, can you, no, you cannot put it there. You put it down there, the external props.
Yeah, because if you put it here, like the generic of connect is to infer whatever is in here.
Yes.
Move it down here. So if we insert like external props here, we have a problem.
Okay.
But it can be used down here. This is actually the way like a Redux connect works as well.
Yeah, okay, I see. Because I used to have to do external props and declare them up.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
We could do that as well, but it's just to get it inferred.
I get it.
Yeah. So so this is like we're just iterating on this and like, okay, how should this application file look like and all this stuff. But what's really cool is that you can go from not using TypeScript and get a little bit more declarativeness by not using traditional tags, but using these proxies. And then you can create this move over to TypeScript and it still works. And then you can create this special application file for typing. And then you just give types to your proxies. And then you have typing, basically. It depends on how you look at it. It's not inferred typing, but it's real typing. It's the helpful part of typing. So
yeah, and you avoid the duplicated declaration of connect props.
Yeah.
I'll show you how I do it now, and well, I showed you already once.
Yeah.
Because I have to declare it twice.
Yeah.
No.
So this is like a mashup of all the stuff that went into the Fluent thing with Adam, and then what's his name? I don't remember his real name. Yeah, there was this guy who built this plugin actually a long time ago, and then we saw the opportunity to, Fluent is a little bit verbose and boilerplatey, and like it has a high cost on declarativeness, but if we combine it with this proxy approach, we can keep the typing and also the declarativeness.
But then how does it work if you have a state that depends on a prop, for example, like you fetch the data for the to-do? How do you do this?
Like here?
State to-dos. Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So is your to-dos declared? So it's just something that has a key, any key?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So that's also kind of cool that we still just treat everything as plain JavaScript. There's no, like if you compare to other state libraries like MobX, for example, where you have these special types to...
No, it's nice like that.
Yeah.
Really. The only issue I have with this is that sometimes there's something that is optional, and then there's a full object, and I need to fetch something in the object. Return the parent is missing, but when you declare it with types, it cannot be optional, because otherwise it will just break.
Oh yeah, but you can't you just do like, isn't it?
Well, yeah, try it now. It will not work.
Oh yeah, because you have to check it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's maybe something we have to see if and how we can manage. Like maybe have a wrapper around it. Something I don't know, that says if it exists, do it, and then it will solve as just the raw JavaScript.
If you want to say TypeScript that you are sure that this object exists, you could use exclamation mark.
After to-dos?
So just place question mark here. Place question mark here, yes.
Oh yeah.
And after to-dos, after to-dos, before bracket. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, you're a genius.
But it's
This
a trick.
bothering me.
You trick a TypeScript. Say that I'm
Yeah,
sure.
that's so cool. Thank you. Okay, no problem.
Cool.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically what's like there's still some iteration here, like feedback on how, like we're using this app as an example of how it will look, and then we'll do some more iterations on it. So basically what's left now is I'm going to refactor the computed to work like we talked about, Gaspard, that you get this push strategy instead. So since a computed is connected to a module, it can actually by itself figure out when it should be flagged as dirty, because it has access to the controller and all the changes in the app. So I just
so it behaves like a view in a way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, kind of like what you talked about earlier, if you remember.
A long time ago, yeah. Yeah, I loved this idea of having stuff that it came from monkeys in Baobab, actually, this idea.
Yeah. Because and it, like, the implementation will be so much cleaner because it's there's a ton of stuff going on now, and it's very tightly connected to a view. There's tons of logic in the view to update a computed, but with this new approach, the views will just grab the value, and if it's not dirty, it will just get the latest value, or if it's dirty, the computed itself will then reevaluate.
So you don't evaluate it always, only when required. Nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that means for things like lists sorted and things like this, it's really cool.
Yeah, and it will work exactly the same inside actions. So that's really nice.
Yeah, good idea.
I have a question about asterisk object keys syntax.
Sorry, where?
Object keys, when we used asterisks to get keys of object.
Oh yeah, you should be able to do this.
But I guess it's not typed at all. Do we lose the typings?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's a good point.
So now to do in function in component, which will type. So it's any.
It will be any, yeah.
So it probably it should be array of strings.
Yeah.
Oh.
We can do this.
It's ugly.
Yeah, but yeah, that's a good point.
But the double asterisk also has an issue. Maybe if I don't have many of them. I have maybe 2 like that, or 3. Maybe we could have just a function wrapping, and then that's a generic function, and it just gives the right type and adds the star.
Yeah, and we could also do like here. We could have like type wrapping around it, so it's connectable. And that would, like, it would be this type, but it would actually add the star and star and.
That would be nicer, maybe. Yeah. Then put it, because it's not in the. Okay.
Yeah, because you really only want to do it like if there's a.
But usually it's like at the level of the UID, for example. Can you put a star and type it here or not?
Oh yeah.
Or
how would that work?
Does that work?
I'm not sure it will work.
It's not.
Yeah, okay. Not assignable to, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good point. But
I guess square brackets kills TypeScript definitions at all.
When you add the star here, you mean?
I'm not sure.
No, it doesn't.
Okay. I just seen that it could be used as escape hatch when you want to access something that.
But I think this and writing as string array is okay. It's just the double star that is more annoying because you have to know the type.
Let me remember what double star means.
Double star is by default. It means interested in all the sub.
It's not really by default. I mean, in my app, I have to use it, otherwise it fails. Like if the object
to all object and returns whole object.
Yeah, it returns the full object if anything changes inside, but it's different because if the object is missing when you start, the double star will react to the object being created. Whereas
so I guess you just will type as state dot to do's.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what we. Yeah, so I think as is okay for this use case.
Yeah.
For now. Yeah. But I don't know why we still need the double star. It's weird.
Yeah, because I remember we talked about this, Gaspard.
Yeah.
And I think I just postponed it because I was looking into something else. But yeah, it makes sense that if you point to a state path and there's nothing there, it should render or react to it if suddenly something pops up there.
Yeah.
So like star asterisk should behave like as expected. And then you have the star or the single asterisk for a list version. And then I was also thinking about having exclamation mark so that, for example, if you have a list and you only care about actually replacing the list. So if you insert a new array, for example.
So it's actually blocking.
Yeah, something. I don't have a use case yet, but yeah.
But if you use the star, it's nearly the same, no? Performance-wise, it only changes if you have a very big list, right?
Yeah.
With lots of changes.
Yeah. Basically, if you remove or add an item in the list.
You have to redraw, yeah.
Well, this one would only redraw if you replace the whole array. But yeah, cool. But yeah, I'll let you know how it works out with the computed implementation, and then I'll push it as soon as this demo application works.
And what about override props? Does it work? My favorite feature of Connect, override props, how it behaves.
The merge.
Does it working?
Merge argument.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the only thing here, I'm not sure how to do it because of the typing. Like you would ideally have like 3 callbacks here. So we might have to create like a second connect. So you have connect with, just to name it, connect with merge. And that would have 3. So you would get to do blah, blah, blah in here. And what you return here is what's actually available here. That's one way to solve it.
Yeah, because the merge changes the props.
Yeah, that the merge just says explicitly these are the props that should be available for the component. And for TypeScript to understand that, okay, the argument received here is the stuff that's defined up here, and the stuff that's in here is what's returned here. It needs to be split up into different functions.
Question, I have another question. So now we trick TypeScript to think that template tag is an object. So could it somehow still report that it's some template tag that returns that somehow attached to the state returned by it and infer it?
Not sure what you mean. Do you have like an example on change?
I mean, when I explore typings, what signal, for example, what state to do means. Yes, I move mouse there, and it shows me not so true information.
Mm-hmm.
And it could, I don't remember where I faced with it, but I think it was someplace in app when I wasn't expected. Not sure.
I think I can see that in the actions, like your function needs a tag with a certain type that resolves to a certain type. But if you write state to-dos, it will think it's the actual to-dos when actually it's the tag. Is this the use case?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Because I have all of my actions have a lot of them. Like, do you have any actions that takes a state or?
Yeah, because the way actions work here is that you have.
Yeah, but I was thinking about generics, not actual actions, but factories, action factories.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think.
Because then if you use
yeah, because I can import one.
Because yeah, if you can create a factory.
Oops. Because you could do action set, and the way it would work here is that you say state filter, for example. Oh, argument of type function. Yeah, I'm not sure why it says function. There must be something wrong in the typing.
Well, filter, you mean? Like, but if you write state to-dos, UID or anything, just to try what does it do? Okay, so this version of set.
Yeah, so the thing is, like, the problem with using TypeScript and the operators is actually it would work just fine to, well, there are two things. It would work just fine to use the operators. The problem is using props. So like typically in a sequence, you might use props multiple times, but it looks different at different places in the sequence. So it would look kind of weird. Like you would have to have multiple versions of the props in different types, or you would have like one props for the sequence and you would have like optional on everything. But, yeah, so that's kind of weird. And then it's the composition. So what's really nice about the chaining API is to say like, okay, when you use the chaining API, you don't use operators.
Okay, I get it.
Because then you just do like action, and like you see here, you have state set, and then you have the typings both for the state and you have the typings for the props, because the props are inferred. And then TypeScript yells at you if you try to access props that isn't there, or you compose in a whole sequence that expects some props as input that isn't available, and all that stuff.
Okay, and then if you create actions. So for example, your actions is...
Yeah, so if this, for example, is toggle all checked, I wanted this to use a certain prop, I would say like foo string here.
Okay.
And then that would be available here. And if I were to insert this action somewhere in a sequence where foo wasn't available as a string, I would get an error on it.
Okay.
Which is really...
And then you just return something, and that...
Yes, that becomes...
is inferred.
yes, that's inferred, yes.
Nice.
yeah, it's really cool what Adam and his colleagues worked on there. So like it's really cool. You can compose in a whole sequence, and it will.
Yeah, and just the only overhead here is the fact that you have a function for each action.
Yes.
You have to write a function, okay. But that, yeah, that means instead of having operators to act as function factories, you actually write them.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, you write them in line, or you would actually create like
something for that. Yeah.
Something, yeah. Or maybe you would write your own.
Mm-hmm. And what about the when equals and all these?
Yes. So, for example, when is implemented directly
inside. Okay.
And I do. Yeah, we have debounds. Yeah. So
Yeah.
flow operators should be included in the chaining API.
Yeah. Okay. I see. Cool. Because other than that, we only use set basically and set or.
Yeah.
So we had all the proxies on the state, and that was really. Yeah. Okay. It's good, but I prefer it like that actually, because sometimes we had things that were not totally orthogonal between state set, state something, and then. Yeah. Okay, good. So the idea is to keep the operators or just maybe someday remove them?
Well, it depends on how things move. Like it's really nice now that you can start off with like basic Cerebral, and which is the current API. And then if you want to introduce some typing, you can still use, for example, the operators if you want to do that, but you won't have like typings for the props. Like maybe you don't have very complex compositions in your sequences. So you choose to keep the operators because you value more the declarativeness of the existing sequence API instead of moving into this chaining API, which has a cost. Or you can go all the way and move into the chaining API to get like full type safety in the composition of everything. I don't know, should we just have an opinion and just ignore all these steps in between, but at least now we can explore like levels of.
Yeah, I was not remembering that you need the proxy to have the chaining API, right? Or maybe you could write state set and put strings in there. Would that work?
Yeah, you can do that. You don't need this is just translated into a string. So
that means the chaining API could be used without TypeScript.
Yes.
Yeah. So that for me, clearly, this does not put a huge overhead. I mean, okay, you have to update your app. That's shitty. But the operators are nice, but they require quite some syntax also.
Yeah, they do.
So I'm not sure this syntax, which is just JavaScript, is harder to use than the other one. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think it depends.
But clearly, having both of them for some time is really
exactly
a good idea, of course.
Yeah, because you can just start, like when we introduce Cerebral, it's possible to just use the typical sequences with arrays and objects, and it's like very little fluff you have to put into your brain, and then you can import a chain factory, and then you have the chaining API. But maybe we'll get to the point where, okay, maybe the chaining API should work.
Yeah, and as I see, we still use state API. Could we use direct assignment and compile it to set API?
Yeah,
is it possible?
Like so, instead of doing this, you would do like state.new to do title equals props of title, and that would
would convert in
to the state API.
yes, the state API at compile time.
Yeah, I'm very sure it would be possible, but I think what's his name, the Bubble plugin guy, he would state that it's a lot hard. Like the plugin is tiny now. It would be a lot harder.
I guess it should be another plugin in the preset. So preset could contain several plugins. So one just replace imports, and another would do this job.
Yeah,
but I think I think it's too magical, because if we start to do it like this, we think it's really doing it like this in a way, but it's strange because it's not.
I see a point, but I also don't like that we have here state pass. It also adds complexity to newcomer. As a newcomer, I can't understand what is this and why I need it.
Yeah, but in a way, if you just yeah, but if we do it the other way, we have to be able to do object keys on things, and everything we do with object, actually. Every function we want on an object, if we start to make state look like a simple object, well, we have to do it so that it works. And like people must start saving values of like const foo equals state dot blah blah blah.
I guess it could be solved in development mode by throwing errors.
Yeah, so it's just that we have to have.
So in development mode, we can keep proxies working, so it's not transpiled, and
I would love to use like for like in Fluent, for example, like, or to just, yeah. So what we could do is we wouldn't have to actually transpile the example here. Like you said, Alex, need to do title equals props.title. We could actually make this work using a proxy. So the state thing here would just be a proxy. And we would be able to quite nicely handle that under the hood. The problem is when you do stuff like this, todos equals state of todos, and then you do todos push, yeah, something like that. Because it's really hard to, like, the only way to solve this is that you would actually call state. You would explicitly say, create a new proxy for me. Because if I would point to items, state.items here, if I didn't explicitly ask for a new proxy here, it would kind of build on the path of the to-dos. Like it gets messy. I don't know if that made sense, but it's a problem to, like, you have to reset the proxy every time you point to it, which means you have to call it as a function.
Yeah, well, I have as my experience with Ruby, like when I worked on Rails, with Rails and followed the development on Ruby on Rails, there was this time when they started to have magical APIs everywhere. Like it's the thing people discovered in Ruby, this proxy, basically this, and they thought, oh, that's so cool. And at the end of the day, the overhead for the programmer was huge, because in every function, every library you were going to, you had different meanings for things that looked like the normal language you're used to use. And then you had strange errors. Like it would work 90% of the time, but for the 10% when it didn't work, you had no clue. You could not use a debugger, or if you tried, you went into some kind of code hell you could not understand. This thing is easy to explain. We need state set because we need this operation to be recorded somewhere. That's it.
Yeah, at least for now. I think it's good to do this and then rather explore if it's possible to do it other ways. But like I had like with the Fluent thing, it uses proxies to build up. We actually use proxies this way because we want to report to the debugger. Because in Fluent we use plain MobX, so we need to expose a proxy to track like the mutations, and it's insane how much code it is, and it's very fragile.
Yeah, that's exactly what there was with this Ruby thing.
Yeah,
it was a huge thing just to make it pretty, and at the end of the day, it could not be maintained. It was just not worth it from my view. I mean, I hated it because I was always on the edge cases, and it always blew up on my face. And until, I mean, it was not written on this thing. I'm a fucking proxy. Watch out. I mean, if we have a syntax that's in the language saying, be careful, this is not an assignment. This is a function call that's been overridden by looking at like an assignment, blah, blah, blah. Okay, why not? But it's not.
Yeah. And anyways, it needs to work like this under the hood anyways. So we'll just start here, and if someone comes up with a brilliant idea and the time to implement it, it will be cool to see like a proof of concept of it. But yeah.
Yeah, sure. If something really, yeah. But we have to be careful. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But okay, I think that's enough for my my show.
Yeah, thanks.
How do I stop this? You want to show your stuff, Gaspard?
Yeah, why not? So I have to press this screen share. What do you have? Enter screen, I think.
We see it.
So yeah, ignore this. So the project is moving forward right now. Like I said, we're talking with schools and trying to have them adopt this thing. But I just wanted to show a bit what we've been doing. So there's, for me, two things that are really interesting in this project. The first one is encryption. Yeah, I created this library that encrypts all the data on the client. So this means I have no idea what the data contains. So, like, this is a document, right? So it's a bit scary to work like that, because if you do some changes to the format of the documents, well, you cannot update them. Yeah. You have to migrate them on the client, and that's a bit difficult. So yeah, for now I'm just hoping I don't have to change too much stuff when it gets online. So the library is just this crypt library here, and it's got all the stuff for generating keys, handling, trusting a new user, encrypting the data, and then the difficult part is mostly here. It's a lot more complicated than it looks, actually, because there's all these cases where you have to transmit a new key to a user. So I'm gonna just do this right now here. So this is the folders, and I can create a new shared folder, which I will call the Cerebral test. And then I can decide to invite. Do I have to publish it? Oh no, I changed something and it's not working. Because yeah, I have users, but I think.
Oh, is it the demo ghost?
Yeah, it looks a bit like that. Yeah. But are the other ones the same? Strange. So yeah, I have a bug, but basically I can invite someone and then the person can accept the invitation and receives the key to this folder. And then all the documents will be decrypted on the client. Okay, so that's one thing that I did in this thing. And the other one is the editor. So actually this editor here, you saw it already in this fall.
Yeah.
And we have this score building, and it has evolved quite a lot. So this is, for example, generating a random score. So you can play around with the rules, but now we can also edit the document itself.
Ooh.
Which is pretty incredible because these nodes don't have a click handler. It's actually the full score that detects where you're clicking, and the handling of the movement is just computing positions everywhere all the time.
Oh yeah.
So
I
there's.
I did the same for a calendar actually. Well, I can show that demo later. But
Yeah, you feel pretty proud when it works.
Yeah.
Because there's so many little bit of small numbers you have to add to reach exact positions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and now we're building this thing that is it's actually dictation. Is that how you say?
No idea.
You just listen to the music. I don't know if you have the computer audio, but maybe. And then you have to select the rhythm. And for now, you have to move the notes, but maybe we'll have some kind of melody selector then, so that you can do everything with a finger.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and then there's I implemented a chat around this thing, so the student can talk to the teacher like that, and you can send documents. So if I do a new document, so this is you can share documents with people like that. Simply drag it and say read this. Yeah, and then you can also share just exercises. And then when you click on it, you have like a view. This is going to be for like iPads and you know these smaller devices where you want to focus on musical exercises. And yeah, that's about where we are now. I'm working on the calendar stuff, so you can select times and stuff.
Yeah.
And then this will put it on a schedule for the student. And yeah, now that it's the part where I have to wrap my head around all these things related to time and how to make a UI that looks simple. but still works for every situation.
Yeah.
Because there's there's the messages that happen through time, but there's also the schedules, the lessons, like the progression of the student, and things like this. So that's a bit the challenge for now.
It's really cool. It's really, really cool.
So the idea is really, this is just some kind of WhatsApp that is focused on the student, but you have one for each of the shares. So you have like a discussion for exams.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea around this is that it helps people organize their stuff with documents and all that. And yeah, we had also this printing stuff, like printing preview. That's kind of hard to do.
Yeah.
But it works. So if you change the scale of this thing, it's like that. So they reorganize. So now, yeah, I have still a bug here. No, that's just a paragraph. So yeah, these things are very interesting, and actually, it works really good with Cerebral, because there are solutions to detect resize and things like this. But actually, we have such a good system that we don't need these clever tricks, because we know when the content changes, and so we can just measure for components if their size changes. And then I report the size to the state, actually. And then the display of the pages reads these sizes and computes how to organize the paragraphs, so that printing really looks like viewing.
Yeah.
Cool. And that's really cool. And that's really a feature from the way Cerebral has, the state in some place, and some things update when the state changes. And so I'm really happy with that. So yeah, so that's where we are now, and I have to migrate from Firebase to Firestore. That's because it doesn't work offline, the Firebase.
Oh, okay.
It works.
We need new bindings for Firebase model.
Sorry?
I guess we'll need new bindings for Firestore.
Yes. So I was thinking to switch to CouchDB, but I'm really happy with the authentication and a lot of stuff in this Google thing. And actually, I thought, okay, let's just do a first step with Firestore, where the documents look a lot more like CouchDB, actually. And in my case, I don't have to nest documents, so it's going to be very flat and simple. And if it works with Firestore, then I'll stay there. And if it's too expensive, I would love to have peer-to-peer instead, but I don't know if there's anything ready. I've been looking at GunDB. Did you look at that? Gun. I think it's called just Gun.
Okay. Oh, Gun. Yeah, I've heard the name.
But... Yes. So it's really interesting. There's ways to synchronize clients with just a backup server, but it works if the backup server is offline too. The only issue is who has the right to write and delete a document. And with cryptography, you can check that things have been edited by the right person, but you cannot check if it's been deleted, for example. You could delete everything, and that would propagate, and there's no real solution right now for that.
Okay.
So it's a very interesting issue, but I don't want to solve it, so I'm waiting for someone else to do it.
You the token GBT, how you say JWT token? Is this?
So you mean there's a library that does this?
No, I mean for authentication. For authentication, it's simple. It's similar to our OAuth 2, but you can use it on your own server.
Between clients, you mean then?
Yeah.
But it doesn't work fully offline.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but with cryptography, my users are authenticated. There's this thing here where you have to trust someone for him or her to appear. And if you don't trust the person, you cannot read any of the documents from that person.
Okay.
So trust is not really the problem. The problem is like you could write stuff to folders you don't have the right to write to. It's not readable, but you could just do denial of service. That's the real issue by just messing around with tons of data on the peer-to-peer network. So it would be, I think the solution is to implement something that detects misbehaving people and just pushes them out of the network. Yeah.
I think it's interesting. Yeah, peer-to-peer is interesting. I have to look into this also, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's really the future because the data belongs to people using it totally, especially images and sounds and things that could be heavy. Yeah, but it's difficult. It's difficult also to make it simple for the end user because, yeah. But it will happen someday, I think. So my idea is to be ready with whatever I've been doing for that.
It's really cool to see an example, like a real application using that sort of technology for security. It's really cool to see.
You mean in cryptography?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a nice challenge.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like, was it a requirement from the schools, or do you see it as something you?
I feel everything is moving in that direction. Like the laws are changing regarding user data.
Yeah.
And I wanted to build something that I could reuse if I had to work in medical, like for therapists and things like that. So that they know I don't know anything about what they're writing and doing, or startups, or people with big secrets.
Yeah.
So it's more like this could be useful, but then now that this editor is also a thing that you can use to create music or text or write stuff. I think it's nice to be able to tell the people that I don't have access to their data, that it's really theirs.
Yeah.
And they really decide who can see and who cannot.
Yeah.
So it's more something to have a door that is left open instead of, but the real issue now that this cryptography thing is working is really more on the fact that I cannot update the schema of the database. Like if I decide to have we need to have the title this place in the document, not this way deep.
Yeah.
Or I want to change how I save the editor, the stuff, because it's things like that. It's just horribly messy. So
I think it's like really powerful that the stuff you write on the client, like it's not like you pass it to a server and then it's encrypted. It's done as you type it, kind of. It's different because you don't have to. As I understand it, you kind of like you don't have to put your trust in a third. Well, you kind of do it, but you do it at least on your machine instead of on some server somewhere.
Yeah, I think it's really something like this that everything should work, because when you work in a company, you trust the server of the company, right? But most companies have their servers in-house just because they don't want to trust Google. And I don't want to trust them. So what I'm doing is also not trusting Google. It's just saying, okay, I'm using this service from the biggest company in the world, and they're super powerful, but blah, blah. But I don't trust them. they don't have any data that is readable on their side.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's more, for me, it's more on this side, so that I can use a service that I find very useful without committing all the way to giving them my data and my client's data. And,
yeah, that's really interesting.
And it's not that complicated. The hard part is sharing the keys. Really, it's just that. So sharing the keys is not that complicated either. Once users have their public keys shared. So the real part is creating trust between users, and you have to do that offline for now. That's, for me, the safest way. Like you copy a link. Like if I click here, I can have a link if I paste it in the chat, and this is a big mess. But if you click on it in my app, you could trust, and this contains my public keys. So by doing it offline, you know it's me here now, so you know it's my keys. But if you do it in the app, it could be anyone. So that's the hard part for the end users. How do they share their keys? So this part is not really easy for me, because we'll have kids like 6 years old, and teachers and parents, and they all have to connect to each other, and it has to be without a hack in the app to help them. So I'm just trying ideas with cards that you scan and numbers that you type. I don't know. That's the hard part. The rest is not so hard. It works.
Have you looked into TensorFlow JS? Did you see Google released TensorFlow for JavaScript?
You mean the AI thing?
Yeah, no. Deep learning thing. I've just seen a few YouTube videos, but it's really interesting. Like, talking about stuff that you usually think of as a server thing moving into the client.
That's great.
I saw this amazing example of, like, it's very hard to figure out scenarios where you want to use it, but I saw this really great example actually related to the Cerebral debugger, because we have this coloring based on the name of signal. So and the thing is, should we have white or light or dark text based on the color underneath? And you can try to create an algorithm for that, but it will never be correct, because colors it's not straightforward. But I saw this demo where a guy didn't use TensorFlow, but a different library. But it was really interesting to see how quickly it was able to just nail giving light or dark color on different backgrounds.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's super cool.
And if it really works, I'll use that to generate music, because I have really a difficult problem. Like my AI that is making the music, it has to respect a huge amount of rules. Like people want it to respect the chord progression, and it has to put certain important note on the strong beats, and it has to respect the fact that you don't want this kind of jumps because whatever, the instrument is not made for that. And so that would be really interesting to have a bit more something stronger into this. Cool.
Awesome. But it's really cool to see the project moving on. So you have to let us know when you get your first official customer.
I have. There's a school here they have like 3,000 kids, and they will start with a project in September. So it's moving forward. It's not like we have the number of clients we need yet, but I think we can at least go to September, October. It's like you're living on a month-to-month budget a bit, but no, but it's cool. And I did some calculations, and I mean, we are arriving with this thing at a time where all schools, music schools, know they have to move forward and do something about using new technologies. So it's the right time, and if it works, I mean, I will hire all of you guys, and we'll do just what we do now, but we'll be super well paid. No, but there's really a lot of money to make in this field of education, learning, and yeah, it could really work.
Awesome.
So I'm at the stage where I have to believe in it and not be frightened if it works.
Yeah.
Which would be cool.
I actually talked to Ives, Code Sandbox guy.
Yeah.
Because he has an internship at Facebook that's starting at the end of June. And they're actually making some money on the Patreon stuff, and they have an investor. And I think also Facebook wants to contribute there. But anyways, so he wants to find a way to pay people to contribute to the project. So we talked a little bit about that, and I was hoping to maybe do something related to like the Cerebral community, if they want to work on a real Cerebral app and actually get paid for contributing to something. Code Sandbox is a good project for that. So we'll see what happens there, but yeah, something will happen at least.
Yeah, we have to find ways to reward all the hard work that people are doing in open source. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to. I had a talk at React Finland, and I think you're gonna like the ending of the talk. I just basically talk about open source and the people who has contributed to Cerebral and stuff. It's I remember it as good. We'll see when the video is out, but yeah.
Okay. So it's not. It's really recent.
Yeah. It was last week.
Oh, okay.
They're working on the video material now, so it should be out by the end of the week, I think.
Yeah. No, I think it's a nice model to create value, open source.
Yeah.
With this peer-to-peer stuff and everything, I'm wondering how you could have a company that earns money to continue working on it. Mm-hmm. So that's a bit the issue, because once everyone is not needing servers, they won't pay fees for you every year, and then you cannot improve anything.
Yeah.
But I think if we solve this, or if we find ways to do this without advertisement and all these pseudo solutions that people are using now, because basically ads, Google is running on ads, and Amazon is running on stealing the value to producers, basically. Yeah. But we could find a model where it works without that. I don't know how, but it would be better.
Yeah, will be interesting to see. And also, what's also interesting is the threshold of doing payment on the web is becoming lower and lower. There's like a payment API coming directly into the browsers now. So
yeah, because definitely we could have. There's this guy who created this browser where you have a day budget for your browsing, and when you browse, it just at the end of the day it gives the money to the places where you've been. But yeah, it's Tim Berners-Lee project. You know, the creator of the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
The only issue is that the browser knows everything you're doing.
Yeah.
And so we are not sure if this data is going back to Tim's company and he's just doing exactly what Facebook is doing, selling your data and so on.
Yeah.
But the thing, like you say, okay, I can pay like, I don't know, $12 a month for browsing, or 20, I don't know. And just give it to the people or to the places I go most. And then you stop going on Facebook. But yeah, if you love Facebook, then that's where your money goes. But if you're a fan of GitHub, then we'll pay a lot of money to GitHub.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
but
interesting.
that's a nice model, I think. Just, you know, instead of paying for your time viewing stuff with ads, you pay with your time going to some place and reading things and spending time there.
Yeah.
It's a better model, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well. Alexei, did you have something?
Yeah, so a little intro here. I have some legacy part in app that I'm working on. It's a data provider layer. It's pretty sophisticated. It allows to batch requests, cache responses, the duplicate requests, etc., etc. So, but as I said, it's a bit legacy, and I decided to implement it to see how it works internal better, understand it, and maybe someday replace with my written model, original one. And going through this, I wondered what if I try function tree to implement it. So first of all, I made it through classes, just class in TypeScript, and made some minimal viable version of it, checked that it works, and then tried to implement it with function tree.
Cool.
So I want to show off the difference and show some lags, some gaps I found in function tree approach, and maybe we will fill these gaps a bit later. So I'm finished with my introduction. Let me share the screen. Okay, so screen sharing on. Oh boy. I am looking at time and I'm afraid that staging servers were down for now. Oh, I'm not sure if it will show off the real work. Let me check a bit. So I will stop screen sharing for now. I need to go access some console stuff. Can we fill air with something?
Yeah. Yeah, I can show you the. Let's see. I have the. I mentioned like you did, like you moved the notes, Gaspard.
Yeah. Show me your.
I'll show you my thing. Let's see. Oh, that's right. No.
The next thing I'm gonna work on is actually annotation on score, like drawing on top of the score. This is going to be fun too. You know, like you have to sometimes put something in red or write careful here, slow down or whatever. Because the movement in music is more and more to use iPads instead of printing scores.
Okay.
And I want to be the thing running in the iPad. So people won't use it if they cannot, you know, just highlight some part, you know, annotate like they do on paper.
Yeah. It's fun. I see Brian here on the. Oh, where is it? Where is it? It's. Oops.
You're still teaching?
Hmm?
I think the last time we talked, you were starting a job as teacher.
No, not teaching. I'm back as a consultant again. Where is it? Should be. What? I showed it just a few. Should be, yeah, it has to be before this. Is this chronological? Oh, well, it's before Cerebral. Has to be down here somewhere. This is so weird. But I did show it off here. Let's see. There it is, appointments. So the thing is, like, there's like a huge data structure of appointments. And then I'll just pause it. So what happens is I don't actually grab the appointment. I just track where the mouse is, and I track if I click. And as I move, I kind of like reposition the appointment inside the data structure, and then I re-render everything. So when I move around, you see it. Maybe it's a bit sluggish on your.
No, it's okay.
But you see everything and it's super fast. And it's actually no drag and drop logic, no DOM manipulation, nothing. It's just manipulating the data structure of appointments, and then it just works. Kind of cool.
Yeah, and for the when you're dragging, using just CSS to move the things right or left is not faster?
What do you mean move right or left?
Yeah, like if you can pause here, yeah. So for example here, you have the dragged object, and the other objects have to go right and left, right?
Yeah.
They move, and what you're doing is you're inserting the object inside the tree, and then it renders everything, right?
Yeah.
But to avoid the re-render of everything, you could just keep the thing like hovering, and just change the class names of the two objects below so that they squish to the right or left or up or down.
Well, I think that's what it's a long time ago, but I think that was what I was doing.
Okay, so the red object is not in the tree, or it is. If you go to the right, we cannot because the video here, right?
Oh yeah.
Because if I show you let me show you my thing here. Can you see my screen here?
Yep.
So for the drag and drop, if I start dragging something, the thing that I'm dragging here is actually an object that's absolutely positioned, right? But this means that, and I just tell the Cerebral my position, right? But then this is just hovering. Wait here. So the thing knows I'm hovering, but it also knows what I'm dragging right now. So it can react like this one is already in it, so I cannot put it back again. So that's why it's grayed out. But the thing is, my dragged object is not in the list. It's separate.
Oh yeah, like yeah.
It's a DOM object that is at the root of my app, basically.
Yeah, I see.
This means that I can easily go the step further and drag it out. Like I could take this, put it out, and it makes a PDF, for example, or I could take this and drag it out, and it's a MIDI file. But I've been experimenting, and I think this is the solution that is the easiest on the eye for the user.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Because it's very smooth. It does not depend on how fast it can re-render any lists.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that's there's just this idea that you have this object that you grab, and then the other object know what you're grabbing, but then you use the hover state to make them actually react to it or move or change. And then there's also the problem when you go down the list and they have to scroll up. And but it's funny because I was looking at React drag and drop things and helpers and whatnot. And actually, it was very easy to do because we have this central state and we can just say, I want to be a droppable place. So I need to know if something is being dragged so I can change color because I could accept this thing. And all this logic that people are putting in the drag and drop API with the HTML, I think actually how we do it is much better because things can start changing state as soon as you drag because they know. You don't have to wait because you hover and things like that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
When I was working on lucidity with this, plugging things, I was doing what you're doing too, like inserting the object inside, but I'm not showing it. So it's like your red box was just a ghost, so it pushed things apart, but the red box stays under the finger or the mouse. And this makes it feel much more intuitive because you can go out of the list. And maybe out, it will show where it would go. If you let it go, it would snap. Like that. But I will have to do all this work for the calendar.
Oh, yeah.
I have this scheduling thing in my app, so we'll see.
Are you back on track, Alexei?
So, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
So there is how it's actually working. After signing in, let me show maybe some code here. So my user code put some actions to that provider layer. And there is a subscribe function that receives answers from server. So you can see here that post actions were made post actions in row, and I can even duplicate some of them. And then we can see how it's sent to server. So we can see only one all products portfolios here with request ID, one templates and auto payments with parameters and cache tokens components. Server makes a response immediately, and it says that it received my requests. And could add some additional information here, like accident timeout, etc. And it also indicates that there is no other async requests open to server, and It means once it answered to me, I have to create new request, so it could push some messages to me. So we can see that in next request we have no payload here, but server starts to push me results from backend. And we see that only one request now completed with the result, and it also indicates that still no other sync requests. So I could explore further and see that it continues to provide me some results from my requests. And after that, it starts just poll server. So we can see these long connections in waterfall. And if server has some push messages for me, it just will put it in this connection. I will close it by that, and client will open new connection again. So that's how it's working. So we can see answers we received from server here. So it also supports partial responses. So sometimes this huge result could be split in few responses. So we can show to user some useful information as soon as possible. And how it's under the hood. So it's just a class that I have instated, and so it's very basic functionality I recreated from original that provider layer. So when we post action, we use another class entity, and we add there all information passed from function call, and we say that we need to start making server requests. Server requests are bounced, so we can collect few responses in one, requests in one, and when server request actually hit, we go into request manager again and ask to provide all requests there and send it to the server. So, and after that, we start processing answers, and if we get this flag, so no async requests, we start it again in the bounds, and it continues until the session is server session is stopped. So in answer, we just go through each response and notify request manager with this response, and also notify our subscribers about received data. And request manager, it's another class that manages actions until we confirm that server received it, and once server received it, we delete this request from our local store, and in fact here will be a much more logic here, so it's called update and not just delete, because here will be some caching, managing timeouts, etc., etc. But it's a minimal solution. So it's how it looks in classic classes, and it looks like not so complex to implement, and we have full typing support here provided by TypeScript. So we have sure that it's somehow working, and we get some hints from TypeScript, but still it's hard to read, I think. So I tried to re-implement it with function tree. So let me switch to it. And check that it's working as intended. After signing in, it starts to get our data. So looks like working. So what's the great part here is that we start receiving it in Cerebral debugger. Well, what is not so great is that it's still hard to read here because we have scriptic numbers. We have no idea what this when means, etc. So even when we receive some data, finally receive some data from server, it's still hard to read, unfortunately. So, but it's a bit better in code right now. And here is some notes that I want to about some gaps. So first of all, here context and providers not typed, and it's not in sync with that we define in our Fluent-like file. So I defined it first. And it could be solved by passing here request context.
Yeah.
And it's a simple fix for typings, I guess. So I put it here. So I put it request manager as a provider here. But I think that I could go further and implement internal logic of request manager in sequences as well. But it could be another runner, function tree runner, or just integrate it here by extending providers context. But so it looks like here this now. So this just the same signature. So I haven't had to change anything in client code. And post action just runs my sequence defined with payload passed. And here is another thing missing, that it doesn't check that this sequence meets our providers requirements, so that we can fail here. And the same goes about payload. It also not type checked here, but it looks also a simple fix. So in sequences, main starting point, payload passed by from post action here is going to sequence start, which first adds our request to manager and bounces actual request to server. So when it's finally got run, it makes requests and asks restart sequence if there is no another sync request now, and also starts process response. I guess it could be parallel here, but I haven't figured quickly how to do it with chaining. Maybe we could do it now, but let's go through more. So there is one sequence, this request manager adding, and since original sequence could be called with action, which was passed from user call to post action, or it could be restarted itself, and there wouldn't know any action in context, so it's defined as optional. And here starts first problem that even though we have checked here with when that action exists with simple check, here we still have to assure TypeScript that action exists. So it's working okay in TypeScript because it could analyze that we made if check. I'm not sure if it's not the case here, but it works fine with TypeScript when you have checked in if statement that action exists, then it will not complain it in body of the if statement that action could be undefined. It will make sure that it exists. But we have this lack of understanding, and I'm not sure how this is easy to implement, but probably we can somehow override context here for true or false passes. Here I'm just not sure because I haven't explored internals of Fluent much, and
yeah, like if you created a custom action there with paths.
So what here is you mean
so just instead of using when, you would just use like an action, and then you would create your custom paths, because there you would actually type what you would pass down.
I think here we can somehow extend this definition, so it put different contexts here and here.
Yeah, I could do that as well. Yeah.
But that only works if the when clause is simple, no?
No, you will have to explicitly tell TypeScript what will. So you will tell that the true will have context that action exists.
Yes. Okay.
So, and if you omit second, it will mean that there stays same, and you can define here what will be in false part. By the way, it actually may be working now because it's underlined. So
Yeah, so it has to be the same. That's one limitation I know Adam said. Like with the paths, it needs to be the same. I believe it needs to be the same payload or the same type at least.
So I guess it's solvable, but I'm not sure how much efforts we need to make it working. But it would be nice to be able to do it. So you can see that I place here that sequences are not named with chain API. Also goes about when.
Mhm.
And this part looks like action, but it actually not action, but it has same signature. So I put it here as well. I'm not sure how to solve it, and should I solve it? And Christian, is it only way to show empty pass?
Good question.
Could we have a second signature for when? And you only put one action, and this means it's the true action, and the false is empty? Because that's a use case that I have a lot. False.
As I remember, originally we decided that we must define it to make it explicitly that you thought about this pass and you define it as an empty pass.
Yeah, we're running in a loop here, right?
Yeah. But yeah, it could be. It could maybe be null or something.
Yeah, I think we can replace it with null and just check it.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Null or undefined?
But I prefer null because you will explicitly say that you was as developer you thought about false way, and you say that this
false
pass is empty.
Use false.
So
false.
you
false.
say here null.
No, false. You just remove everything to false. False. False
maybe
with value false. That's perfect.
Maybe.
Yeah.
No, yeah, but you don't have to write it then.
No, because if you don't write it, it will be undefined.
No. I mean, you write just false.
Oh yeah,
it's not working. It's not working because it should be defined here as variable to work.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh,
I
too bad.
guess.
Really, you cannot just have false as value and key.
Yeah.
Oh, it needs to be a variable.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it works on.
Would have been nice, but
variables. So is a false or null here to say that it's an empty pass.
Yeah, I'm just totally against the null. I think it should not exist in the whole language. So yeah, that's because null is an object.
We can use non, not a number.
Null is not an object; it's just type of object.
Yeah, but it's stupid. This null thing is. I mean, why not use undefined? I don't. For me, undefined is much more.
There is a slight difference between null and undefined.
Yeah, I know, but
often null is used so that it's explicitly null.
Yeah, I get it, but so for example, in React, we keep on. I mean, if you don't define an optional value, it will become undefined, right? If you have a key in your JSX and you don't define it, it comes as undefined, which is like, well, there's nothing there. But if you require that we have something, yeah, we cannot put undefined because then I would just remove false. And then But could we? And then Alexei would be angry at me. So, and we're in the same loop again.
Yeah.
So you have to use null to avoid the loop.
Yeah. Yeah, I vote for null as well.
Yeah, I vote for removing everything.
Do a none.
None, yeah, or infinity. I'm for infinity. Like, do not go there, or you will get stuck.
Oh, here is. I have another suggestion. First of all, execution wasn't defined in context, and I had to define it myself.
Oh yeah.
So iContext is not in typings for now.
Mhm.
I guess it could be good for Cerebral users, so they don't see this in typing suggestions, but I think it's better to place there anyway. So let's return in here. So my suggestion is to have a method on execution to restart the sequence. Because now I have to use this ugly
I think there
construction.
is actually. It's
Huh?
yeah.
Execution restart? No,
Yeah.
I think so.
Retry. I think I called it retry.
Yeah, there is something.
Yeah, I did implement it once at least because I did it this demo where you kept track, like you had a counter.
When I explored execution, I haven't
A
figured
feature for a demo with a counter
Yeah, maybe it was removed again. I don't remember.
after the demo.
So let's see what is here. Sorry. So where it?
Let's throw. What about on the proto? Do we have anything on the? No, it's just the object proto. Yeah.
It's been written. Yeah, you removed it then.
Yeah, probably.
While we're on the typing thing, I think we have to have tests for every types we have. I mean, that's work, but if we don't test it, it's going to be adding, removing, changing, and it's going.
And if we're going to TypeScript port, we have to make it follow semantic release as well.
Yeah. But because actually now we have this thing like people we update the types as we need them to work with our apps, but then we don't know if there was a reason for something that looks wrong or not exactly right or whatever. And there's nothing more frustrating than to update Cerebral and have just random issues with types that don't make sense.
Yeah, but we can start with like there's been so many iterations now, but it seems that we have landed on
yeah.
Also, so we can
think
function tree like so it doesn't feel like unreachable, but like secure the typings with testing in function tree and then move from there into the other.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think we don't have to be too picky about names of things because if we decide that it's not eye context but that it's context something, it's not such an issue to update in an app. Especially I do proxying for everything that I use everywhere. So I re-export types, so you can change whatever you like. I don't have to change in my app. But and that's probably a good advice, but I don't know. But I think that's good. If we have the test, then we know that it works for all the cases listed. And if we have a case that does not work, well, we list it and then we fix the types, and we know we didn't break anything. Because types are tricky. There are really edge cases that we don't think about that happen, and sometimes if we fix it, we might break something else.
Yeah.
So now with that we have been exploring, I'm really I think it would be nice if we could stabilize the types with tests.
Yeah.
And maybe I don't know how we can make sure that we only export the public stuff. Like not exporting stuff that is not required by the public API. That's not very easy, but yeah. because I know types tend to be a bit deeper than we would like them to be sometimes. We will see. That's
yeah.
But it doesn't have to be now. It's not something we have to do super fast. But I think if we start to build on this slowly, we'll have like full coverage of types with tests.
Yeah.
And I think that's good. If people start to use TypeScript, then they know it's stable. And
Another way
tested.
to cover typings is to write originally in TypeScript whole function tree.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
types will be checked naturally.
But we still have to write tests.
So you are proposing to write them in jest, yeah?
We write tests.
And remove matcha?
Yeah, that was my proposition, to have only one library now that they conflict. And also do some kind of .test thing, like a test file in each package where we export, describe it and whatever we use, so that if we have to change the testing library, we just update the wrappers. Because I don't know, but I think these globals is just something from a legacy thing. And
So I can show off, by the way, here I working with the same thing, and I defining type roots explicitly here. So in my TypeScript files, regular TypeScript files, I don't have this just stuff. So if I type describe here, oops, it was working. Maybe it was another.
Nice.
Include. So I just sure I made it working. Shit. Sorry. Bit fail here.
Programming.
Because I was sure it was because here I use this to make it work. Something go. It was working yesterday. So in fact, my TypeScript files, regular app files, wasn't polluted with jest, and in the jest files, in test files, I just put this reference stuff, and it make this work. I have to check it again. What was wrong? But I repeated this setup at least twice, and it was okay.
But I think we can really import, describe, it, assert from test in each file at the head of the file, because then we know where it's from. We can have an alias if we want to somewhere, but I really like that we import these things. I mean,
yeah, I like explicit imports too, but I managed it to work somehow.
Sounds like a good idea, at least.
Because now all the modules are tested with Mocha, except some like Angular and
and React stuff and demos using Jest.
Yeah. So and how blocking is this thing right now?
How broken?
Yeah. What is the? Is it blocking everything? You cannot run tests, or?
Well, it's blocking when we run on Travis. It runs the check deps script, which then will install types for both Jest and Mocha at the root level.
And after that, it tries to build every package.
Yeah.
And it fails not on install, but on building.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, because you get a conflicting definition error.
some globals conflicting, and I can try to figure out why it stopped working for me here, but I'm sure I can do it again. And we can try type roots for now to check and to fix it. And consider choosing one lib to test anyway, because it simplifies dependencies.
Yeah, I don't know much are very good. I've been using Jest for some time.
Yeah.
But is there, so what do they use? Do we use describe? The assert library is separate from what I saw. Like if we look at the code, we have describe it. What else?
I think it's a mix. We use assert some places and.
But it's a library assert, so it's already not an issue, right?
Yeah. Just provides you expect from Mocha, I guess.
So, for example, describe it assert is from assert. So, I think we just have to, like here I'm in the. So describe it could be imported from our test lib, and that's it, right?
Yeah. So what you mean is that we can just flip it over to Jest, and then it should just work.
Yeah. For most of it,
we should try that first, maybe.
Yeah, and then we will solve these things with the globals.
Yeah. That makes.
We can try test code modes to transform it from Mocha to Jest.
Yeah, that's also.
Yeah, we could try that, but from what I see, there's nothing specific to Mocha.
Oh boy, I figured it out. So when I use at least one reference thing here, it pollutes every one file.
Super. Yeah.
Not nice.
No. No, but Christian, to unlock the issue, we do this: replace Mocha with Jest and just fix the files that need fixing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And as you saw an example of there, you don't.
Probably there's nothing to do.
Nothing.
Yeah. In fact, I don't need these definitions here at all. It will complain in editor.
Yeah.
But test runner doesn't deal with it anyway, and it works. So it's another way to go with it.
Yeah, but we'll just try to replace one with the other and fix the files that need that. I think that's the fastest route to having Travis work again.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, let's try.
Yeah, and then we do this import with the globals, maybe someday. No, but it's not a priority.
We can just use define.
Define.
Where?
Just define. No, declare. Declare.
Oh yeah, you mean. It will not pollute, but
you will have to repeat this in every file, in every test file.
Aren't those declare things global?
No.
No.
Oh, you have to say declare global or something. Yeah.
If you say this declare in some DTS file like this one, it will be global.
Oh yeah.
That DTS file that ambient, I suppose they call ambient typings. So,
But that's if you want to remove all the add types, jest and add types mocha, right? What you're saying here.
yeah.
But I think if we just replace the libraries, we will have the add types from the library, like and then it should work.
Yeah, and the benefit is that we actually move to one testing library, which is, if it's not too much work, it yeah.
No, I think it's not a ton of work. There's just some special things that we'll have to update, like timeout and things like that, or before.
Mm-hmm.
But most tests are just describe.
Another issue with typings there is if some dependency installs add type /node because latest node
it's broken.
It's not broken. It just declares what it has. It has an URL model in global that conflicts with browsers that defined in libdts files. And you have them both. You also have failed build, and it also solved by explicit type roots.
So what that means is it will not read any.
Yes, it will use only this one. So
that's nice to know, because I had this issue and I had to retro version. I don't know what I think it was Firebase installing node types somehow. So I had to go back to before they had these types. So good to know.
Oh yeah, it's one way.
So that's when you have conflicting, for example, types React, because that can happen too. Like you have a sub-library that requires an older add types React.
Another way to solve different type roots for test files is not to collocate test files with sources and put them in separate folder, which will contain their own test config.json file. So the editor will use it as well. So for now, for me, the main problem here is only editor. So because I already have separate test.json, I could define extra type root for jest here, but my editor will not use test config test.json. It's just using this test config.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a problem for me is only editor because it complains with red. So it's fully working test with which will also work with TSC compiler because it will use all type roots, including just one, and it's a bit silly. And I like collocated tests.
Yeah, me too. I don't want to move them out of my folders.
But I can see a way to define separate test.json test config for only my tests.
But in your type roots, if you include jest, then it works, right?
Yes, but it will pollute my main files with jest.
Oh yeah.
Now it's free from jest.
Yes, of course.
But
it's
we kind of my personal that I just don't want this pollution here, but it doesn't affect me in any way, but I just don't like it.
Yeah, I understand, but I think we can also. But if you import, like if we do this,
Unfortunately, we can't import DTS files from types. It says that it's not a model.
no, but I mean, if we explicitly import, then but then there will still be the globals. Huh.
You mean
Yeah.
import jest or what?
Yeah, just always exports the global, declares the global. There's no types that has no global.
Even that it. Wait.
Because you can import from. So what we could do is ask these people from Jest to stop.
We can't do it. Unfortunately, because a lot of tools relies on this already.
Globals.
Yes. What I see here would
No,
work
but
for
we
me.
fork the types. We just have a version of @types Jest without the globals.
Yeah, we can fork them, for example.
So like it's going to be @types/Jest no globals. And then that's it.
I guess we will not be able to publish it and at types, but we could publish it somewhere in our monorepo.
Yeah.
And use it
Yeah,
as,
because
as internal package because we need it only for development.
yeah, can we not? No, we cannot undeclare something.
No, unfortunately, as I know.
Mm-hmm.
Another way, and what I was talking about, that what would work for me is just tell the editor to use my test config test JSON for my spec files.
Mm-hmm.
And it would completely work for me.
So that could be something to ask to
yeah,
Code.
we could go to VS Code, yes.
And
but
that's something they could implement, yeah.
And they could accept this, I guess. I explored settings and I haven't found.
Yeah, but then they would need to have 2 running compilers parallel for this. Yeah, sure. Because the way the TypeScript compiler works is it caches a lot of data. Because I had to implement something with the compiler for
the running
and then it's
server. Yes.
Yeah, so they have to double everything.
Probably.
So yeah. Okay, so
this is enough TypeScript for me today.
Yeah, for me too. I've got a baby waking up tomorrow.
So my main concerns for now is lack of ability to make debugger useful for me because it looks.
Yeah, but you can name stuff. You can name all the signals,
but not with the client API. There is no ability to pass. There is only for parallel, as I remember, and I haven't figured out how to use it. So parallel has this name.
Naming, like when you trigger a signal.
But we need this name for every branch.
Oh no, but like the execution itself, like when you call run, you can give it a name.
I guess when also needs name, the bounce needs name, equals needs name, etc.
Yeah, though. But I think it's better that you just create a custom action, that you name whatever you want. because it's like when it's not very complex. It's just a branch.
But we lose.
I'm going to bed, guys. Anyway.
It's awesome to talk to you again,
I
Gaspard.
have to go. Yeah. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And another complaint here that it's the fact I found myself it's hard to create this in Fluent from scratch. It was easy to convert existing classes to function tree, and I like these definitions that I got as a result, like this. But it was hard to me to make these sections from scratch.
Yeah.
Because it requires constantly retyping contexts, define them, and check yourself that you defined it correctly. And it was nice to when I use it here, and I type it and I use action and define it in line. It helps a lot because I could explore what we have here.
You can't talk.
Oh, yeah, of course. Sorry. Like this one. Oh. And it's pretty nice, but it's not nice to have action implementations right in sequence definitions. So you could start, of course, you could start here, then just cut it from here and pass in actions files and add the context here to define what it accepts as context. So it's completely possible. But as I said, implemented with classes was easier, but harder to reason about result, harder to read, and harder to check if it does what you want. So to check, to verify your logic. It's easier to verify logic within sequences because you just read it, and you can verify every action by itself and cover it with tests, etc., etc. So
it's a really cool example, like a very concrete, like class-based approach to function tree approach. And I really liked how you didn't just use function tree, but you actually extended function tree and created like your own thing. That was cool.
So here's some it's just some ideas that are faced with problems. Some of them could be fixed easily, and some of them require some thinking.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm not sure if I had anything else. So one complaint is that it's not very useful from the box.
But like if you go back to the code, so just in the post action method there, if you would just give it the first argument, you would give it, for example, component ID, then that would be the name of the.
It doesn't let me so run. There is no definition.
Oh yeah, that might be.
There is a problem here too.
Because we actually, when we used this on the server at the startup, we actually had the URL that was hit. as the name of the execution, which was really nice. So you would actually see like a bunch of different URLs being hit on the list on the left.
Okay, I will play around a bit for
Yeah.
more, but at least there is already some problems to fix.
Yeah, it would be nice to have those in a list, or maybe you want to go ahead and just fix them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should, how to say, preserve my second place in contributors.
Yeah, exactly.
But it requires more time. But
Yeah.
at least I faced these problems and I know how to fix some of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So I think that's all for now. So I will keep this as a reference for myself. It's not a production code. It's just checking what function tree could make.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be good to have it in an issue or something.
What?
It would be good to have this in one issue. Yeah, issue. A list of these problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that we can fix it.
Yeah, so at least I will start with list of issues, and maybe we'll fix some of them, and maybe someone grab others.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, I think I have to get my ass to bed.
Yeah, me too, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But this was really nice. It's been a while since we did this kind of hangout showing off stuff. It's fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess we just talk on Discord, and really looking forward to get this new stuff in. Also done a ton of stuff on the website. I forgot to show it, but I can do that next time.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think it will be good.
Okay. So.
Wait. Have a good night.
Good night. Yeah. Sleep well.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.